Learning support within instructional context. Patty Steinhauser, edit 7170. What is learning support? For the purposes of this presentation, it's the juicy details of the learning activity, including additional resources. What is instructional context? According to Dr. Jill, this is where most instructional designers spend their time. Tess Marici say this content comprises the factors and environments directly involved in the delivery of instruction, immediate, physical, social, and symbolic resources outside the person. They also contend that context is a multi-level body of factors in which learning and performance are embedded. In the diagram featured here, these individual factors are represented as a part of the whole because they interact and influence each other. When does instructional context apply? Tess Marici say the borders are often determined by the initiation and termination of the learning event. Becky Tracy quote Melancon saying a localized approach of context of use emphasizes specific moments of use where context is scaled back to what is needed in a specific time or moment, which would be just in time or moment of need training. Who can provide context for learning support? Ask your learners. They are your best resource. Some good questions include, how will this learning help you? What are the biggest challenges you experience? What are some examples where you've had problems? What are the easy parts? What are the hard parts? How can you use this information now? What do you wish you knew when you started? Can you walk me through it? What does a typical example look like? Where does learning support happen? It can happen in the real world. It can happen as a transactional event. It can be within systems. Either way, there are contextual triggers that are important. An instructional designer should pay close attention to these contextual triggers. And one of the best things we can do in a learning environment is to acclimate learners to a certain behavioral triggers. Creating the visual association or clue between the trigger and the action is an important part of encouraging the memory and behavior of the student. Learner support also depends on scaffolding. According to Dirksen, again, you should embed easily accessible learning support in the way of examples, definitions of help, documentation right at hand so learners can have the support they need while in the midst of trying to accomplish the task. What other instructional models apply to learner support? Well, constructionist theory, which involves learners, provides a variety and gives autonomy. Universal design of learning, promote accessibility, multiple means of representation, encouragement, engagement, and representation. Systems thinking, where you include learning and performance gaps and contextual factors. All of these are included. How will you use learning support? Some examples are throughout this presentation. Traditional examples would be user guides, participant guides, instructor guides, on-the-job training. Some of the moment of need learning support, quick reference guides, job aids, help systems, coaching. And don't forget your digital learning support, videos, simulations, embedded web links, PDF resources. And your demo and practice learning support, scenarios, practice exercises, step procedures, checklists. Collaborative learning support is very important, storytelling, role-playing, reflections, teachbacks. And then your reinforcement, peer assessment, AR/VR, visual clues, audit by observation. And then what about prior and after the event? Knowledge checks, assessments, pre-activities, follow-up assignments, and social learning support. We can't forget that. Learning communities, reflections, badges, and discussion boards. Here are my sources, and this concludes my presentation. Thank you.